I'm Eric Walenza, founder of IoT1, and this is the Industrial IoT Spotlight. Every episode, I interview one expert about a project that is impacting businesses today. Visit us at IoT1.com to learn more, or email me to start a discussion. Welcome to the IoT Spotlight podcast. I'm joined today by Alizadeh, founder and CEO of Giatec Scientific. Giatec is an interesting IoT company. It's focused on a particular niche, and a niche where there's a very clear use case. So what Giatec does is they provide advanced NDT technologies and wireless sensors that are combined with mobile and cloud applications for real-time monitoring and smart analysis of concrete properties. And so the value that they bring is making job sites connected, and by doing that, improving the speed and efficiency of construction projects. And speed and efficiency are, of course, directly related to cost. So, Ali, before we move on, what did I miss in your introduction that's important to note before we kick off a conversation about your solution?
Thank you, Eric. No, that was a great introduction. Basically summed up that we are bringing IoT applications to the construction sector. So these are two totally different worlds. A high-tech industry and an old-fashioned industry are merged together through our technologies. And
so the construction sector, it's a complex sector. What does a typical customer look like for you? Are you working more with the contractors, with the material providers, with the construction companies? Who would be your customer, and then who are the other stakeholders that you're working with?
For the range of solutions that we have, smart solutions and IoT-based applications that we are offering to the construction sector, we're primarily working with two stakeholders. We are working with the contractors who are building structures and ready-mix producers who are offering concrete materials to these job sites. So our solution essentially combines the data that it is managed and generated at the ready-mix plants with the applications that are applicable to the construction companies at the earliest stages of their processes.
Gotcha. And I love the fact that you're focused on this very, I'd say niche, although it is, obviously it's a large cost bucket, but it is a very niche application of monitoring concrete properties. How did you get into this space? How did you identify that this was a challenge?
We started off at Giatec with the development of lab devices for testing the quality of concrete. So these were sort of desktop-based devices that can be used to assess properties of concrete when they build a new structure. And gradually we got into NDT inspection and wireless monitoring of concrete properties, and realized that a bigger challenge is actually when they build new structures. So previously our focus was on existing buildings, and we thought, if we can get into the earliest stages and help develop new methods for better assessment of concrete properties and improve the quality of concrete, we won't get into issues that are happening at later stages. And that's actually a very niche area. Construction companies, when they build new structures, are all concerned with the time and project flow and efficiency improvement in their job sites to offer to complete projects as soon as possible. So they're looking for tools that can help them with speeding up these projects. And we thought that we have the knowledge and we have the background, and we've developed expertise in wireless communication. So let's get into data space.
Great. So I want to get more into the technology, and actually I'm a little bit embarrassed that I have to ask you what NDT technology is. But before we go there, explain the business model a little bit more. So what is the business case for a customer? Where are you saving money here?
Okay. So we are working with two main players, ready-mix producers and construction companies. And essentially we're leveraging ready-mix producers' data and monetizing their data to offer a value-added solution to contractors and construction companies. So we start working with the ready-mix producers. They can list the mixes that they want to offer to the market as smart mixes. These are mixes that are offered to construction companies who want to know real-time properties of concrete on their job sites and make decisions on the go. So we get those mixes calibrated. This is a process that correlates concrete temperature to its properties such as its strengths. And then the producers, the ready-mix producers, can list these on the cloud. And the cloud actually gets the data synchronized to the mobile app that is offered to the construction companies. So all the construction companies need to do after they purchase the smart concrete is to install wireless sensors in the concrete, download the mobile app, which is available for free on iOS and Android platforms, select the mix name that they have purchased, and after that they will be able to see the real-time strengths of concrete. And this is something that is really critical for them. Any operations that they do, from formwork removal, post-tensioning, optimization of curing conditions, opening traffic on a concrete pavement, they want to know what is the strength of concrete. And using this solution, they can access that without any hassle. And so they can get their processes optimized, and after that, all this data is backed up on the cloud. So ready-mix producers can log into the cloud and see what is the performance of their mixes on a job site. And this is a data that they didn't have access to in the past. Traditionally, they would sell concrete, deliver it to the job site, and that's it. But using our solution, now they can get more information on the performance of their mixes after delivery. And this is going to help them cut the cement amount that are adding to their mixes, which is traditionally done to be conservative and gain more strength than needed. So it's a win-win situation both for ready-mix producers who are offering a value-added solution, and at the same time they can optimize their mixes, and for contractors who are getting real-time information on the hardening of their concrete so that they can optimize their processes.
Gotcha. So for the ready mix producers, it's helping them to differentiate. I understand that for material suppliers in this industry, there's very thin profit margins. So I'm sure that's a value for them. And then helping to feed back data into their R&D and product development for next generation solutions or for improved solutions. And then on the other side, the contractor side, it is helping them to reduce time and reduce the amount of material that they're using. Who is paying you?
Yeah. So in this so-called the smart concrete model, we're working directly with the ready-mix producers. So they are essentially our partners in this technology. They pay us to buy sensors from us, and there's a licensing fee associated with the platform and the setup. And as soon as they are signed up, they can start advertising their mixes as smart mixes, and that's it. So we are only working with them. From their perspective, they are upselling their mixes. So, if a regular concrete mix is $100 per cubic meter, they can offer a smart concrete mix at $104 per cubic meter. And that's actually very attractive pricing for contractors, just to pay a couple dollars more per cubic meter to be able to get real-time information on concrete temperature and strengths on a job site. This is huge for them because, just to give you an idea, a day's worth of a contractor is about $15,000. And by giving them tools that they can optimize their processes and move faster and open formwork faster, they can make huge cost saving in project completion time and optimization of their labor. And for ready mixers, the $4 is a huge impact on their bottom line. As you mentioned, they're running on a very low margin. Usually, it's about 5% profit margin that they are looking at, and with a couple dollars more per cubic meter, we're looking at least 20 to 40% increase in their profitability. So that's significant for them.
Gotcha. Great. So it's a great business case. I would say it's very clear. A lot of IoT business cases are still trying to search, I would say, for the value, trying to figure out how to monetize data. But it seems in this case, it's quite straightforward. So let's turn back to the technology. Okay, wireless sensors, pretty clear. What is NDT Technologies?
That's abbreviation for non-destructive testing. So any method and tool that can assess concrete properties, or in general any properties, without damaging the subject, that's called NDT method.
Got you. And if you break down the architecture of your solution, what is this composed of? I suppose there's sensors, there's cloud. What types of sensors are those? How are they connected? What's the lifetime? Can you give us a bit of a view of what the system looks like as a whole?
Sure. Yeah. So we started with Bluetooth sensors. We didn't want to have any external logger that is typically the case in wireless communication on aggressive environments, and industrial job sites. We wanted the users to use their own smartphones and simply download the app to be able to connect to these Bluetooth-enabled sensors. And we used Bluetooth low energy for maximizing the battery life, and that's the technology that we optimize. Traditionally, Bluetooth is not really designed for communication through concrete. It's designed for open air communication. So we had to go through a optimization of the design of electronics to be able to get signal out of concrete. And that's part of our patents and IP that we have developed around the embedded Bluetooth sensors that can be placed in the concrete during pouring and placement. So these are rugged, essentially small sensors that construction companies and contractors place in the formwork. They can twist and tie them around rebar and pour concrete as usual. So the unit is fully embedded in the concrete. Nothing is sticking out. And after that, there is a mobile app that our construction company users are able to download from Apple Store or Google Play, and which is free. And then they can use that app to tag their sensors, communicate to the sensors wirelessly, download the data and analyze the data, and get real-time results on concrete temperature and strengths, as well as graphs. And they can also share data easily between other partners and colleagues who can get real-time data at the same time as anyone who's getting data on their job site. They can generate reports, so post-processing is very easy for contractors using our system. And on top of that, all this data, as I mentioned, is backed up on the cloud. And actually, the cloud that we have established is a gateway for ready-mix producers to put their calibration data, which is essentially synchronized to the mobile app, and that's needed for the strength estimation. What we are also using the cloud to back up the data and give access to the producers to see what job sites are using a smart concrete, what are the results, and what is the mix performance, so that they can make more optimization at the production stage.
Great. And so across this architecture, what are you doing in-house and what are you working with partners? So if we look at the sensors, for example, are you sourcing the basic components and then producing these, or are there sensors out in the market that already fulfill the requirements, and you basically send specs to an OEM to produce these? Likewise, on the cloud side, are you doing all the development in-house, or do you have outside partners?
Yeah, so we initially thought about outsourcing or going with ready solutions that are in the market. There are so many IoT based technologies that combine sensors and cloud, but they all had limitations, and it was very difficult to customize them for our particular application, which requires rugged sensors for aggressive environments and flexible cloud in terms of data analysis and communication. So we started with parts. So we buy essentially Bluetooth chips. We're not a manufacturer of Bluetooth chips. We get those sourced from a manufacturer, and then we've designed everything else in terms of electronics, the firmware, the software that is needed to communicate with these sensors, and the cloud. So, but in terms of manufacturing, the volumes that we are producing, we can't do it in-house. We're working with contract manufacturers to produce the sensors that we have designed. And, the software, on the other hand, is all done in-house. We have a strong team of mobile app developers and cloud engineers who are developing these iOS and Android mobile phone based apps, as well as the cloud dashboard that is designed actually on Microsoft Azure's platform.
Great. So you're doing quite a bit internally. What are the most challenging aspects on the technical side of bringing this solution to market? Where were the areas where you really had to put some significant resources, or maybe there was some uncertainty around your ability to execute?
So fortunately, technology is pretty advanced, and it's getting more advanced as we go forward. So we didn't really have a big challenge on the basics of the technology, but the particular challenge that we had to address were related to the application that we were looking at. So the sensors, as I mentioned, needed to be rugged enough to be able to withstand aggressive environments in the construction job site, and at the same time optimized to get the wireless signal out of concrete. So we worked a lot on the optimization of electronic design and wireless communication to have these sensors essentially visible while they are embedded in the concrete. So that was one of the challenges that we have addressed. The second part on the software was actually interesting. We had to make the mobile apps very, very intuitive. So we're talking about a community, relatively is not familiar with the high-tech industry. They are not really using IT-based solutions the same as what's happening in the computer world. So we had to make the mobile app interface and the user experience so simple and intuitive that they can use it on a job site. So the interface is very basic and simple, but in the background, we're running sophisticated algorithms, and the analysis is done very aggressively. But on the front end, the data is displayed very simply and smoothly for the users to have very easy experience.
Interesting. Yeah, I found that to be the case in quite a few IoT solutions, where the challenge is not so much a technical challenge, the old technical challenge of more power, more capability. It's more, how do we create a solution that's either radically cheaper or radically simpler? And that's what enables the new use case. Well, interesting. Let's talk a bit about the data that's being collected here. What types of metrics can you take out of the system?
So, with the first generation of these sensors, we are collecting the temperature of concrete. So this is the data that is collected from the get-go. Just to give you an idea, concrete is formed out of a chemical reaction between cement and water, which is exothermic and generates heat. So with the temperature sensors that we have, with the wireless smart rock sensors that we have, we're collecting that temperature evolution over time. And looking at the rate of temperature evolution and how it's evolved over time, we can correlate that data to the strength development in concrete, and that's the basic concept behind these sensors at this stage. We also recently released another version of these sensors that collect humidity of concrete. So as concrete sets and hardens, it is dried out. And especially for flooring applications, they want to know what is the humidity inside the concrete before they apply flooring material and floor covering. So we released that generation of the wireless sensors that would be looking at internal humidity of concrete. And we also have the next generations coming out to the market by the end of this year or early next year that would collect other information related to cracking, corrosion, durability of concrete, as well as other information that are needed at different stages of construction and later in the service life of structures.
Interesting. And if you're going to be collecting information around cracking and corroding and so forth, that means then that you're also switching from a short-term sensor that's only tracking data during the hardening period to a long-term sensor that's going to be tracking data over the lifetime of the building. Is that correct?
That's actually correct. The current focus that we have is on the earliest stage construction. So we're working with ready-mix producers and contractors who are looking at the first few weeks of construction, and once they are done with that particular concrete element, they move on to the next step. So that's all the information they need and all the time that they need to look at that information. But after the structures are built, we have another issue, which is the maintenance of these structures. Over time, we want to know what's happening in these structures. Are they cracking? Are they corroding? Is there any durability issues? And that's the second sort of value proposition by offering these sensors to the market. At this stage, the battery that we have embedded in these sensors is enough for the first few months. So to get into the long-term monitoring, we are looking at options and solutions for extending the battery life of these sensors, and even solutions such as energy harvesting from, for example, in bridges where we have vibration, we can use piezoelectric charging to charge these batteries. But once that's resolved, then we can look at long-term monitoring of concrete properties over, say, 40 years, 50 years of service life of a particular structure.
Okay, interesting. And then who owns this data? And I suppose for these two solutions, the ownership is going to be different for the short-term and long-term solutions.
Yeah, so since Giatec is handling all the data from collecting it on the mobile phones and backing it up on the cloud and analyzing it, Giatec owns the data. Although we are not selling data, we this is proprietary information for all these parties, from ready-mix producers and contractors and construction companies. But that data in the long run can help us optimize our algorithms and offer better and more accurate predictions and estimations of concrete properties to each of these parties.
Gotcha. And then if you're embedding a sensor in a building for 20 years, would Giatec still own that data, but then provide maybe an annual service to the building management to alert them if there were problems? Or how would that business model differ from your existing model?
Yeah, we haven't really figured out the details of long-term use of these sensors and the business model around it. But essentially, that would be something that after the structures are built, construction companies move on to their next project. And the building is owned by the building owners. So we have to work on a business model that offers the data and the analysis of the data to the owners. In some projects, the contractors are actually responsible for the maintenance as well. So in those projects, which is happening more and more, we can work from the beginning with the contractors to offer something at the earliest stages to them, and then later on help them reduce their maintenance cost and repair cost.
Okay, interesting. No, I mean, it seems like there's certainly a business model there, but I guess, yeah, you certainly have to probably develop that over time as you get experience with the new solutions and the new customer group, so to speak. Let's wrap up with a discussion. I think we've already covered kind of what's next in your pipeline. Maybe you can just share a couple thoughts on the challenges. I mean, we've already talked maybe on the technical side to an extent, but the challenges that you faced as quite an early mover in bringing an IoT solution to the market, that maybe other companies that are also in early stages. And I think right now, to be honest, there's a lot of early stage startups or SMEs. There's also a lot of traditional companies that may be 20, 30, maybe 100 years old in terms of their existing business lines, but in the IoT space are very new to the market and are trying to figure out how to modify their existing product portfolios with IoT technologies. So if you can share a few thoughts on the most significant challenges that you faced, and then how did you address those in a meaningful way for listeners who are also coming from the perspective of developing their first IoT technologies? Yeah,
so I can speak to what our experience with in the construction sector. As I mentioned, the construction sector and industry is a very conservative market. It's very traditional, in the sense that the adoption of any new technology takes years and years. Unlike the IT industry, where, a new, app or smartphone or technology is picked up very quickly, the construction sector, they take their time. They want to make sure that the implementation of any new material, technology, test method is not going to affect the long-term stability of the structures it is safe, and it's approved and specified by regulators and building codes and standards. So it was very, very difficult for us to merge and bring something from the IT world to the construction sector. So and that was essentially one of the challenges that we had early on with our lab devices and NDT tools and corrosion detection devices that were really ahead of their times. So the adoption was relatively slow. But in the case of the sensors, we looked at revolutionizing a current method that is already used in the industry. So they have to, in any project, in any concrete project, they have to measure temperature. Right. And, we looked at the challenges that they already have with that and the way that they are doing that, the way that they're analyzing the data, the way that they are, reporting that data. And on top of that, we leveraged current standards and building codes that suggest that you can use that data to estimate the strengths of concrete. And this wasn't done in the construction sector widespreadly because of more technical challenges that are associated with that and the sophisticated calculations that are associated with that. So our goal was to first of all make the temperature measurement as simple as possible, and at the same time do all these calculations, sophisticated calculations in the background, and offer the final results on concrete strengths to the end users. Although we used really advanced technologies, but we tried to go after an area that is already regulated and has already been adopted, and make it a lot simpler and easier using our solutions. And at the same time, offer value to all the parties from ready-mix producers and construction companies. So that was sort of the strategy and the approach that we had to start working with something that is already in the market, but making it a lot simpler. And the next step for us is that to build a momentum and credibility on this, and based on that, release the next generation of sensors that are not regulated, that are not adopted by building codes, but because of the advantages that our users see in the current method, it would be very easy for them to adopt the next generation of these sensors that are much more advanced. So I would say for any industry, that's the way to go. The IoT is a relatively new and sophisticated concept, and as you mentioned, to get all the aspects of it figured out and make sure that the end users are going to gain the value is the key to get adoption in the market. And just to give you an idea, we released the smart concrete and the IoT solutions about a year ago, and now we are in more than 20 countries and hundreds of projects worldwide. And that's really significant compared to the previous experience that we had with other devices. And in a conservative market such as construction industry, that shows that if you figure out and if you address all these pain points, you can get adoption even for sophisticated systems and IoT solutions.
Yeah, thank you. I think that's a great takeaway. Many of the industries that have a lot of potential are very traditional. And it's maybe the technology is going to be mature enough before the customer is mature enough or ready for the technology, so to speak. So I think you're spot on that the challenge is often going to lie in developing a solution that customers are comfortable with and that fit into their existing understanding of how value is created, as opposed to bringing a completely revolutionary technology that differs on multiple factors. Last question for you. What types of partners are you interested in connecting with, and how can they reach out to you?
Yes, so we are we're looking for partners in manufacturing as we are scaling up the production. We're looking into partnering with manufacturers who can offer the production at a lower cost and the volumes that we're looking at. tens of thousands of sensors per month. And at the same time, in the adoption stage, we're looking into partnering with the strategic partners in different construction industry segments, from producers to major contractors, and as well as owners and specifiers who are looking into improving the quality of their assets. And we can be reached at Giatec on our website, giatec.ca. That's giatc.ca. We would be welcoming any new opportunities to partner up with any strategic partners in these areas.
Awesome. Aali, thank you so much for your time today. Fascinating use case, and I wish you all the success in the world.
Thank you very much, Eric.
Thanks for tuning in to another edition of the Industrial IoT Spotlight. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter at IoT1HQ and to check out our database of case studies on IoT1.com. We help to accelerate digital transformation by advising business leaders on how to integrate IoT technologies into their operations and products. We appreciate your thoughts, suggestions, and of course your reviews. And if you have an interesting project, we'd love to feature you on a future edition. You can write me at eric.walenza@iot1.com.